Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Well, what is going on, everybody? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, and welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. I told you guys, I don't know if you noticed anything different about me today. I feel the same. I don't know. There's something different going on. But I told you guys I was going to be insufferable on Monday if Houston beat Duke. Damn it, I'm going to be insufferable today. This is a great day for the Big 12, great day for Houston. And it's a great day for me because I just feel good. It's not that I picked the game and yada, yada. No, I just feel good because the Big 12, we get disrespected, and here we are at the end of the season. They can't disrespect us. They can't. And that's what we're going to talk about. First, obviously, we're going to cover the game. We're going to cover what happened, why Houston won, and then we're going to get into the why of as far as the disrespect, that they cannot disrespect the Big 12 any longer. Anybody that does, they're just being idiots. Flat out, they're just being idiots because there's no logical reason that you can disrespect the Big 12 anymore. No logical reason. And we're going to break into all of that today, man. So I appreciate everybody being here. Again, like, follow, subscribe, continue to get in the comments section. Let me know if you like the glasses. Let me know. Maybe this is a thing. I used to do it all the time, but I stopped doing it because I said, you know what? I'm not being serious. People aren't going to take me serious. Well, damn it, take me serious today because this is Big B being unsufferable about the Big 12. So, and again, hit that notification bell so you know exactly when Big 12 Insiders content comes out. First off, let's recap this basketball game. And we'll get through it quick because we watched the game. We know what happened. Houston comes back. They're 9 down with 1:31 to go. They ended up coming back to win that basketball game. It was incredible. Look, they were down 13 with, 10 minutes? Yeah, 10:31 to go in the game. They're down 13, and you, probably like me, thought, okay, this is it. I'm like, damn it. And it was on the verge of getting blown out. And I'm like, they're not making any shots. They're not stopping Duke. Duke's getting whatever they want. That's kind of the end of it. Well, then Houston kind of ratcheted up the defense a little bit more. The game they made a couple shots. They cut the lead down a little bit. And then all of a sudden, Duke couldn't do anything. They didn't score another point or another field goal, I should say. They scored a couple free throws, but they didn't score another field goal until the 3:03 mark. So from 10:31 to 3:03, no baskets. And you're like, man. And then you look up and Houston chipping away. Then Duke makes a three. Cooper Flagg makes a three on the right-hand side, and they go up 9. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, this one's over. I told my wife, I'm like, damn it, I literally said this to her. I said, damn it, I can't be insufferable on Monday because Houston's going to lose. My exact words to a T. And then Houston ratcheted up the defensive pressure even more. And Duke had absolutely no answer. They got some game pressure on them. Deep into the game, they had no answer. They literally, and I'll talk a little bit here in a second on why that is. But Houston made the run, 11-0 run to end it, took control of the basketball game. Now, everybody's going to whine. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. There's people out there that are whining about, oh, that foul on Cooper Flagg. It wasn't a foul. They let a whole bunch go on before that. Why do you make that call? Let the players play. First off, I think you're right. I don't believe that was a foul. It was garbage, absolute garbage. But there were other plays in the game that happened. There were fouls on Duke that didn't get called. Hell, there was a time a Duke basketball player kicks a basketball. LJ Cryer is driving between his legs. He crossed the guy up so bad that the guy just has to kick his foot out. He kicks the ball out of bounds. They call it out on Houston. And that was right in front of the referee. It wasn't, hey, we don't know what happened, or it was the referee standing there. He kicks the ball. It goes the other direction when L.J. Cryer's going left. The ball goes right. He kicks the ball. Out on Houston. What? So I don't want to hear this nonsense about, oh, it was a foul. Let the players play. You know what else happened on that play? Houston actually got the rebound. That's what none of them ever want to talk about with that play. I don't believe it was a foul. I don't. I flat out don't. It was BS. Come on, ref. I mean, they're right. Refs, let the players decide the game. But Houston ended up Cooper Flagg didn't get the rebound. He tipped the ball. And even if the ref had not blown the whistle, he didn't have his hands on the ball. He reached over the top of Roberts, tipped the ball, Houston grabbed it. So Duke didn't get the rebound. Houston did. Now you can say, well, they would have stopped it. You don't know that. You don't know that at all. Houston had all the momentum in that basketball game, all of it. So you don't know that. Oh, by the way, they did call the foul. What did Houston have to do? So, because I had somebody else come up and say, well, Houston didn't have to make a play to win the game. I'm like, are you an idiot? They were down 9 points with 1:31 to go. What are you talking about? They didn't have to make a play to win the game. What were all those plays that got made for them to get the lead? A 62% foul or free throw shooter goes to the foul line and makes 2 free throws. While Duke's 80% free throw shooter, butthole this tight, misses a shot. And that's exactly what happened. He misses his front end of his one-on-one. Houston guy, 62%, goes down and knocks down 2. Oh, by the way, when on the inbounds pass that Houston stole, where they had the follow tip dunk, that was a 100% and 1. That Cooper Flagg fouled Tugler. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, no, he absolutely fouled him. We all saw it. I was screaming foul at the screen when it happened, and they didn't call that. So you can be right about them letting guys play. Although Cooper Flagg did have his arm wrapped under his right arm wrapped under his armpit. He did have that. But whatever. They let it go down on the other end. Maybe the ref was like, well, damn, I let that go. I can't let this go too. Refs are human. But that's the bottom line is Houston made an enormous amount of plays. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. Kelvin Sampson outcoached Jon Scheyer. Let's start there. Kelvin Sampson outcoached Jon Scheyer. Let me tell you why. Jon Scheyer, like I mentioned, they had the lead. They had a 13-point lead with 10:31 to go in the basketball game. 13-point lead. Everything going Duke's way. Jon Scheyer decided, let's just get to the finish line. Let's put the ball in the deep freeze, and let's just get to the finish line. We've done enough. Houston's not playing well, and they were not, by the way. Houston wasn't playing well. And for people that are not familiar with Houston, Big 12 people are familiar with Houston when they play well. For instance, ask BYU fans how good Houston is when they play well. They played twice this year. The game wasn't even close. And you know how much respect that I have for BYU. A ton. They played Houston twice. Neither game was close. That's Houston playing well. What we saw on Saturday, Houston didn't play well at all. So let's get that, out there into the universe. That wasn't Houston's best game. That was their C game. And we all know it. So there's that. But Jon Scheyer decided to put the ball in the deep freeze, and his kids tightened up. Because, look, I know that a lot of people don't want to say that they're kids because they're getting paid now. And say, hey, they can get paid, and, they're not kids anymore. Yes, they are, people. And I get it. Some of these guys are 24, maybe even 25 years old. I'm sorry. I'm 49. I'm still going to call them kids. And When they see that their leader has tightened up, they tightened up. It's exactly what happened. They're like, oh, okay, we were running our offense. We were in attack mode. We were doing all these things. Our coaches said, nope, let's put it in deep freeze. We'll hold it out front, not really attack anymore. Hopefully they foul us. We can go to the free throw line. We're just trying to get this thing to the finish line. That backfired because, again, your kids tightened up. They tightened up because the coach tightened up. Kelvin Sampson, he literally said it. We've been here before. How many games went down to the wire in the Big 12? How many times did that happen? We'll get to that, talking about how good the Big 12 is. We'll talk about that here in a second. But they were battle tested, and Kelvin Sampson didn't tighten up, And it's not like Houston went to this all-out, full court press with 10 minutes to go. They didn't do that. They just didn't panic. And they said, we got a lot of time left. We're just going to continue to play the basketball game. Duke stopped. Houston did not. That's how you get out-coached. Because, again, your kids tighten up because the coach tightened up. You got in a position to where, okay, let's just get it home. No, buddy. You got to keep attacking. Keep doing what works. You didn't do that. Now, some of that, Houston stopped letting Duke do some of the things that they were doing, which, again, is coaching. Hey, guys, stop letting these drives to the basket, and then they're kicking it twice, and guys are getting wide open shots. How about we stop allowing them to do that, these straight line drives? How about we eliminate that? Okay, because Duke doesn't have a post presence. Like, they have a big kid that they lob the ball to, but they don't throw it to him and say, go get a basket, because he's not capable of doing that. So that wasn't anything that anybody was even worried about. Hey, throw it inside. They're not throwing the ball inside to him. He couldn't score to save his life if you just said, hey, give him the ball, let him go get a basket. Athletic, gonna play in the NBA? Absolutely he is. He's everything that an NBA big man is. But NBA big men don't score down on the block anymore. So he doesn't either. In college, you can do that. So that's where the difference came in. Shire tightened up. In turn, his kids tightened up. Kelvin Sampson did not. They kept playing the basketball game. That's one of the things. Look, Houston was tested, like I said, by playing in the Big 12 all year long. One of the things that is a big part of this is Duke had only played one close game since February the 8th. Think about that for a second. They lost on February the 8th at Clemson. They played one close game until Houston, until Saturday. That was in the ACC semifinal when they played North Carolina. And even in that game, they were up 19 in the second half. Got tight. Again, game got tight, but North Carolina just wasn't good enough to win the game. Like, North Carolina just wasn't a good basketball team this year. So they just weren't good enough to take advantage of what Duke was doing. Houston was. So they weren't battle tested. You're telling me you have one close game in 2 months? You're not going to be battle tested, man. You're just not. And they weren't. And that's part of it. That is absolutely part of it. Now, let's talk about the Big 12 and Kelvin Sampson's salute to the Big 12. We all heard it. We all knew what he meant. And that's when I talk about you can't disrespect the Big 12 anymore. Kelvin Sampson said it without saying it because, again, he's the head coach going to the national championship game. He can't just come out and say, the national media and everybody, the nation is basically disrespecting the Big 12 to unprecedented, results. Unprecedented heights. Maybe that's the better word. It's just the disrespect for our league is incredible. It's incredible. For instance, Houston, and I've said this at the beginning of the tournament, and I believe it to be true. Houston was the most disrespected number one seed that I can remember. And I've been watching this tournament and remembering and actually can understand what was going on for the better part of 40 years. So I understand what's going on. And this is the most disrespected 1 seed that because there's people that didn't think Houston was getting out of the round of 32. Oh, well, because the same old, same old. Well, this Houston team, yeah, they can defend, but they can't shoot. Yeah, they're not a good shooting team. I'm sorry. Houston is number 3 in the nation in three-point shooting this year. 3. Not 33, not 103, which they have been in the past. But this season, they were 3rd. Now, and so when I say disrespected, it's because people didn't do the homework. Like, they didn't even pay attention. Oh, well, it's Houston. Yeah, they can play defense. They're tough. But, when they come against a team where they got to shoot the ball, they're not going to be able to do it, and it'll be over. Well, they didn't shoot the ball great from 2. Hell, they started the game ice cold. Now, they ended up shooting 45% from three-point range, which is pretty damn good, people. I'm sorry. I think they were 10 for 22. That's pretty good. Like I mentioned, they were 3rd in the nation in three-point shooting this year. But, again, that's the laziness. Or I'm just going to say it's just a flat-out disrespect for the conference because they didn't pay attention to Houston. They were 19-1 in the Big 12. 19-1. Had Duke been in the Big 12 and went 19-1, they'd have been talking about Duke being the greatest team in the history of college basketball. That's the difference. If Duke was in this Big 12 and they went 19-1, they would be saying, yeah, Duke, this is one of the best teams in the history of college basketball. Hell, you had some people saying that now about Duke in that garbage, pathetic league of the ACC that they played in. And I can say that it's garbage and pathetic because you guys know me. I'm a diehard Louisville fan. Louisville finished 1 game out of first place in that league. And Louisville was not that good of a team this year. But they played in the ACC. And so they won a bunch of games. The ACC wasn't very good. We all know it. But if that same Duke comes to this Big 12 and they go 19-1, one of the greatest teams in the history of college basketball. Houston does it, they won't make it past the round of 32 because they can't shoot. Do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see the difference? That's why I'm talking about the disrespect is just ungodly. But you know what? They can't do it now because we watched with our own eyes Duke choke the basketball game away. And don't get me wrong, Houston had a lot to do with it. They ramped up the pressure. Duke had absolutely no answer. But what I can tell you, had the shoes been on the other foot and Duke was ratcheting up the pressure, Houston would have been able to handle it. Houston had been in those situations before. Houston, is a tough basketball team, a tough-minded basketball team. Duke was not. Duke had not been in those situations before. And they tightened up. They couldn't even get the ball in bounds, for crying out loud. Couldn't even get it in bounds. All that NBA talent, and you can't get the ball in. They had no idea what to do. They stopped cutting hard. They didn't screen hard. It's just like, oh, my God, these guys are playing really tough defense. I don't know what to do now. That's the difference. That was the difference. Duke choked the basketball game away. Houston made them choke the basketball game. Maybe that's a better situation. Houston made Duke choke. I love that analogy. They made them choke. And we all watched it. And there's nothing that anybody can say. You can't say, well, that. No. We watched it. Duke choked. Houston made them choke. Period. End of story. I don't want to hear anything other than that. Give Houston their credit. You can't disrespect them. We watched the game. So now, well, hell, maybe the Big 12 was pretty good because we watched Texas Tech again. I'm sorry, Red Raider fans. I apologize. But you choked the game away in the Elite Eight, and you know it, against Florida. You 100% know that. So Texas Tech was pretty good. let's see. We know BYU was good, but they got blown out because a team, again, against this same Duke team. We watched Alabama make the record for number of three-pointers made, and when they actually shot the ball normal, what they usually do, they got blown out by Duke. So had they just shot the ball normal against BYU, that game's nip and tuck, and we all know that. So anybody with basketball eyes understands that. Okay. So, and we saw Arizona give Duke everything that they want. Everything. We watched that too. You know, Arizona just wasn't able to make enough plays at the end. And again, it's not like Duke isn't really good, but Arizona never got the game to where, to one possession. They never got it there. If they could have, who the hell knows what would have happened? Who the hell knows? But we know Arizona was good. We just watched them give their best shot. We know Iowa State was beat up. Maybe the Big 12 actually is a good conference after all. And Houston walked through it. Literally walked through the damn thing. And now I know a couple of you will say, well, they didn't blow anybody out. I've said this before, people. You can win every single basketball game by 1 point. If you win them all, they still give you a trophy at the end of the game or at the end of the year. They don't take the trophy. They don't say, well, you only won every game by 1 point. And so we get that. We get that you won, but you only won by 1 point. So we're going to give the national title to somebody else. That's not what happens. It's not about blowing everybody out. It's just about winning. Because sometimes you play good competition. You can't just blow those teams out. Big 12 had a lot of really good teams in it. You're just not going to blow all those teams out. Drop this Houston team in the ACC. How many blowouts do you think they have in the ACC against those garbage teams? They're blowing out everybody. So that's the difference, people. Big 12 just has really good competition. You can't blow all those teams out, especially when you go on the road. You're just not blowing those teams out, man. You're not. So there you have it. The disrespect is real. And then the quote of quotes from Kelvin Sampson. We weren't 34-4 playing in the Toy Poodle League. We were 19-1 in the Big 12. Shout out to my Big 12 brethren. I mean, that was Kelvin Sampson saying, F you, everybody else that's disrespected this entire conference. F you, we are who we are. We are as good as we are because we played in the Big 12. We are as tough as we are because we played in the Big 12. We are as battle-tested as we are because we played in the Big 12. Give us our respect. Give us the respect. Better yet, you don't even have to because Houston took it. They took the respect for the conference. And I love every bit of it. They took the respect. And they earned it. And they earned it the hard way. Again, this was not their A game against Duke. This was not their B game against Duke. This is their C game against Duke. Now, you might say, well, they played really well the last 5 minutes. Maybe. But in what world do you say a team plays bad or plays average for 35 minutes and then the last 5 minutes they play good? Oh, they had a good game. In what world does anybody ever say that? Nobody says that. So even if that's your analogy, which you're probably right, even if that's your perspective, okay, but you're not going to say that Houston played well because they didn't. Hell, they started. I mean, if you want to break it down, Houston, the first 10 minutes played absolutely horrible. Horrible. But the problem is that Duke never put them away. It's because Houston didn't allow them to put them away. Because the way that Houston started this basketball game and was shooting the ball, Duke should have been up 15 points after 10 minutes, and they weren't. At halftime, that should have been a 15-point lead, and it wasn't. That's where the difference comes in, is that Houston was playing bad, couldn't score, missing shots, but Duke could never put them away. You never put them away. Or do you want to go with Houston didn't allow Duke to put them away? That's what I'm going to go with. Houston just didn't allow themselves. Even down 13 with 10:31 to go, I think everybody thought the game is over, except for the people in that Houston locker room on that bench. They said, no, this game is not over. I'm not going to allow us to go down this way, because that was my fear, is that, damn it, all this respect that I keep talking about and wanting is going down the drain because Houston is going to go out, and they're not going to go out giving Duke their best shot. That was my dilemma, because I'm like, well, damn it. We can't earn the respect when you get beat and you don't play your best. That's why I think everybody got a little shot in the arm of respect when Arizona, which Arizona clearly wasn't the best team, or maybe they were the top 4 teams in the Big 12. Oh, I'll give them that. But they weren't the best, but they gave Duke everything they wanted. Everything they wanted. So you got a little shot in the arm of respect there. You're like, okay. But if Houston went down and on the big stage without giving their best shot, what are you going to say? Yeah, well, we knew what was going to happen. The Big 12, when they get into the limelight, they can't play with the big boys. Well, turns out we are a big boy. Turns out we are a big boy. Because I feel like a lot of people thought, well, we just got to give Houston this number 1 seed. You know, they went 19-1 in that conference. I know we don't really respect that conference, but we can't make it ultra biased. We'll go ahead and give them that number 1 seed. We'll give it to them. They haven't really earned it, but we'll go ahead and give it to them. I feel like that's how the nation felt. I know that's how I felt. That's why I keep saying that Houston, the most disrespected 1 seed that I can remember. So let's call it 40 years. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But here we are. National championship game. Houston's going to win it, people. Houston's going to win. Houston, I'm predicting that they will win. I think Houston's got enough. Both teams, first of all, this is going to be an outstanding basketball game because Florida is very good. Florida, they have a guy that's playing the best of anybody in the country right now. You know, that's happening. That is 100% happening. Florida, first of all, is very well coached. Okay? That's number 1. They're very well coached. But Walter Clayton Jr. is playing out of his mind right now. He's absolutely playing out of his mind. So that's the first thing. But Houston might be, even if he goes berserk, as long as everybody else doesn't go berserk, you'll be in the game. I also suspect Houston from 2-point range is going to shoot better than 37%. Now, Florida plays defense. Don't get me wrong. They got bigs. They can guard. Florida's athletic. But I don't know if they've got all of the physicality. But they're deep. They're well coached. They can shoot. But you know what? Houston's deep. They're well coached. They can shoot. Should be a hell of a basketball game. But here's the key thing. Florida, the last 3 games, has been turning the basketball over at an crazy rate. Just a crazy rate. They had 16 turnovers against Auburn. Auburn doesn't put on pressure defensively like that against you. Like, that's not what Auburn does. Auburn isn't out there trying to turn you over with their defense. They guard, but they're not out there pressuring you. Well, we know who does. Houston absolutely does that. And when I say pressure, Houston's not picking everybody up full court. And, you know, they just, when you cross half court, we're in you. And we're not going to stop until the ball goes up, until we get the rebound. A lot of people think possession's over at the shot. Good teams don't believe that. Good teams understand the possession is over when the rebound is gained. And who's better at that? I challenge anybody to tell me, look, Florida's a really good offensive rebounding team. They are. They're not in the same class as Houston. So if Houston just plays that game and continues, they're going to win. As good as Golden is as a basketball coach, he's not Kelvin Sampson. And everybody talking about Kelvin Sampson, oh, he deserves this. You know, they haven't won. And, you know, for the stuff that he's had to go through, you know, does Kelvin Sampson deserve it? Damn right he does. Damn right. Because, again, the stuff that he got in trouble for at Indiana, you don't even get in trouble for it anymore. A bunch of phone calls, you know, and some people I'm sure will dig deeper. Well, it was more than that. It was phone calls and text. Like, he wasn't giving anybody money. He wasn't doing it. It was phone calls. But the NCAA, in their ultimate wisdom, oh, well, you called people too many times. You know, we're going to make an example out of you, Kelvin Sampson. We're going to make you an example. You can't call people. Rawr! And now the NCAA is basically irrelevant. I mean, just nonsense. Again, Kelvin Sampson is one of the good guys. He got a bad reputation. That's all he was doing was phone calls. He wasn't giving out money, or he wasn't doing anything that anybody else wasn't doing. Let's just say that. Because you know me, I believe everybody cheats, everybody pays, everybody was doing all of that stuff, and they were. So once you come off your moral high horse about your own squad, oh, my team never paid. Yes, they did too. So I believe Kelvin Sampson, I don't think he's owed anything. Don't get me wrong, but I think he deserves it. But they got to go win it. Florida's not going to hand it to him. I can assure you of that. Because you know what? Florida wants to win too. I think it's going to be a hell of a basketball game. I've got Houston by 5. I think it gets down again. It gets down to the nitty-gritty. And when push comes to shove, Houston's guys are going to be tougher than Florida's guys. Houston's coach is going to demand that his players be tougher, and that's going to shine through. Houston's players accept the tough coaching and the tough love that Kelvin Sampson gives them. And because they accept it, when the game gets tight and the game pressure is at an all-time high, Houston steps up. And I'm not saying Florida guys don't either. It's just not as high as Houston. We're going to see it tonight. So I appreciate everybody, man. Thank you guys. Obviously, we'll have a recap on what happened with the game tomorrow. Maybe I'll have the glasses on again. Maybe I won't. I think Houston's going to have a whole lot to say about that. But until then, I appreciate you guys. I love the support that you guys have given this channel, especially over the last month and a half or so when we switched this thing over to basketball. And it started slow, but that's not your all's fault. It's the algorithm's fault. So hopefully they keep this thing rolling, man. So I appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.